Hey guys, welcome back to our third day in the study of Philemon. Today we're looking at the second half of our second point, the change in Onesimus. Yesterday we looked at the difficulty of the request in verses 8 to 9. Then we looked at the disciple reproduce in 10-11. Paul says, look, Onesimus, I would love to write to you about the easy things in life and say, hey, everything is hunky-dory and fine, and you'll have no problems in your life. But for love's sake, I have to talk to you about this difficult thing. And then he talks about how he has reproduced himself in Onesimus. He took how he was a disciple of Christ and shared that with Onesimus and was reproduced. Onesimus became a Christian. Let's look at verses 12 to 16. We'll get into today's section. Whom I sent again, Onesimus is sent again. Thou therefore receive him, that is my own bowels, whom I would have retained with me, that in thy stead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of the gospel. But without thy mind would I do nothing, that thy benefit should not be as it were of necessity, but willingly. For perhaps he therefore departed for a season, that thou shouldest receive him forever. Not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved, especially to me. But how much more unto thee, both in the flesh and in the Lord? We see Paul's desire for reconciliation here in verses 12 to 14. Paul says, I could have kept Onesimus here. In fact, he would have been wonderful to be here with me to meet my needs and to be able to go out, because Paul was chained to a soldier all day long. He couldn't necessarily leave when he wanted to. He could send Onesimus out on runs, on errands and things. But Paul said, I have a desire for you, Philemon, for Onesimus to be reconciled. Therefore, I sent him to you. In fact, he says it that way in verse 14. He says, but without your mind I would do nothing. He says, I don't want Philemon, I don't want to force your hand in this. I don't want Onesimus serving me on your behalf to be out of necessity. Well, that's what I was there, and it was the best thing to do because we didn't want to have a big fight with Philemon and send Onesimus back. He said, no. He says, I'm sending him back. Look, if you want to send him back to me to serve me, that's fine. But he is profitable, as we talked about yesterday. He's profitable both to me and to you. So use him there, receive him. We see Paul's desire for reconciliation. Then we see the departed received in verse 15 and 16. The departed received. For perhaps, therefore, he departed for a season, that thou shouldst receive him forever. Not now as a servant, but above a servant, a brother beloved, especially to me. And how much more unto thee, both in the flesh and in the Lord. I love how Paul puts it in verse 15. He says, look, maybe this happened for a reason. Maybe God planned this, that he allowed Onesimus to run away so that he might find salvation in Rome, so he could come back to you, Philemon, and be a better servant. So he could serve Christ, so that his testimony and your testimony would be magnified before the culture around you, so that they see your love for Christ, your forgiveness of Onesimus, your well-treatment of a fellow believer, even though he's at a station lower than you in life, and your testimony is magnified because of that. They see that and come to faith through this. In verse 16, he tells us how he's to receive him. He says, not as a servant, but above a servant. Now, he's not saying that Philemon was forced as a Christian to free Onesimus. Paul talks about that throughout his letters. He says, whatever state you were in which Christ saved you, serve Christ in that state. If you were a free man in that state, serve him as a free man. If you were a slave when you were saved, serve Christ as a slave. There are other parts of the Bible that talk about slavery and the issues of that. We're not saying that the Bible promotes slavery, but we're saying that God saved you for a purpose. God puts you, as Esther was, verse 15, for such a time as this. He says, perhaps for such a time as this, Onesimus was run away and come back to serve as a beloved brother. How much greater should we as Christians be serving? We don't have masters today, but serving our employers, our loved ones, our friends and our family, not because we do it for a pat on the back or for a paycheck or for whatever we might try to earn, but we do it unto the Lord to receive his reward, to give him greater glory, and to magnify his name before the world. That's our challenge for today. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure you are serving Christ. Make sure that you are reconciling with those around you today that you have the opportunity to reconcile with. Make sure that if someone leaves, you are always welcoming of them coming back to Christ. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Tomorrow we'll get into the confidence of Paul in verse 17 to 25, finish this section of Philemon out. Have a great day.